So in 1989, there was the All Valley Karate Tournament. Came down to two finalists, Mike Barnes and Daniel LaRusso. Mike Barnes represented the Cobra Kai Dojo, and Daniel LaRusso represented Miyagi-Do. All right? And if you remember anything about the Karate Kid Part 3, because I remember going with my dad and my sister to that theater there in Tyler, Texas, but there was something that stood out to me. Your boy Daniel was wilding in Part 3. Now, y'all remember in Part 1, they come in from New Jersey. He and his mom, they drive all the way from the East Coast to the West Coast. And your boy had that first butt whooping coming because he was talking mad trash, all right? Johnny should have threw hands on Daniel. But the rest of the time, it was a back and forth kind of thing with them. And so you know what happened in Part 1. We know what happens with Johnny. Then in Part 2, they go to Okinawa, and he goes and beats Chosen. So Daniel, a little full of himself now. So then in Part 3, what happens is Daniel starts to believe he's a little bit more than what he actually is. And so what ends up happening is, like, think about it. Remember, he quit listening to Mr. Miyagi. He used his money that his mama and Mr. Miyagi put together to send him to college. He used it to open a bonsai tree shop. A bonsai tree shop. Okay? Y'all acting like y'all know what a bonsai tree is, right? Like people are just flocking to get bonsai trees, yes, even in the 80s. And so Mr. Miyagi was like, okay, didn't really agree with the decision, but I'm gonna make you a business partner in this. Then Daniel got into a fight knowing that Mr. Miyagi taught him to only use his martial arts to defend himself. But then he goes and breaks this dude's nose in a fight, knowing that Mr. Miyagi didn't teach him to do that. And then on top of that, he got himself a new little girlfriend that he really just wasn't all that respectful with, didn't listen to her. He even stole, because the shop got trashed by some Cobra Kai guys, he stole one of Mr. Miyagi's bonsai trees to raise money to cover the cost of his own mistake. Now, here's the thing. My favorite scene in the movie comes down to the tournament. It's towards the end of the movie, and Daniel is on the ground. And he's in pain, and he's in a lot of pain. And I'm talking Mike has put them hands on him. He's hurting. Sensei Kreese and all the other Cobra Kai guys. It's chaos everywhere in the arena. It's loud, and it's looking like Daniel's going to lose. But my favorite scene, I don't know if y'all got that image for me back there or not, but my favorite scene, oh, it's not up here. Oh, there it is. Yeah. My favorite scene comes when he's down, and the ref is counting, and he's like, Mr. Miyagi, it's over. I can't do it. And Mr. Miyagi's talking to him, but Daniel can't hear him because he's just going, no, he's bigger than me. He's faster. He's better. And Daniel is just constantly running his mouth, and then finally, Mr. Miyagi just says, hey, he looks him in the eye and says, listen, it's okay to lose to an opponent, but you can't lose to fear. It's not okay to lose to fear. So Daniel, being Daniel LaRusso, says, okay, I'm afraid, all right? All right? He's better than me. He's bigger and faster than me. And then finally, Mr. Miyagi says, hey! Gets right in his face, looks him dead in the eye, and he says, you stay focused. Your best karate is still inside of you. Now it's time to let it out. And so, as you all know, Daniel goes on and listens to and wins the tournament, but you may be wondering, where in the world is he going with this? Sometimes, if we're honest, life gets the best of every last one of us. It's loud, it's crazy. You're dealing with something that seems bigger than you. You're dealing with something that you just don't think. You did okay at one point, but this time, this thing that I'm wrestling with, this sin or whatever it may be, it seems like it's bigger than me. And so we get to the point where the problem not only gets bigger than God, it starts getting louder. And it starts getting so loud to the point we start wondering, God already said I had the victory, but I'm losing. Those weapons that was formed against me that wasn't supposed to prosper, they prospering just a little bit, God, right? And so what ends up happening is those things get our attention and we don't hear anything else. But just like Mr. Miyagi, every once in a while, the Spirit gets right here just close enough to have a stare down with you to say, hey, stay focused. Everybody say stay focused. In our text today that we're about to read, there's chaos everywhere. There's chaos going on all over the world, all over the land. And the psalmist gives us a reminder about what God has in store for us if we just do one thing, and that's be still. Just be still. Everybody say be still. So Psalm 46 verse 10 says it like this. He says, be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations, and I will be exalted in the earth. Now, I know, I get it. You're probably really not trying to hear somebody talk to you right now about being still. Because here's the thing, summer's coming to a close, especially for those of us in education. God bless all of us. All right? Parents with kids that you got to get ready to send back to school, we practicing getting them back on a school sleep schedule, putting them back on their school stomachs, amen, somebody, right? So you really ain't trying to hear be still right now, because stillness is like, oh, I don't know if I can be still. This joker been back talking all summer. I don't know if I can be still. Football camp ain't starting fast enough. I've been trying to catch flights and not feelings, and I didn't get to catch my flight because it got canceled for whatever else is going on in the world. It's crazy, it's chaotic, it's loud, and the last thing I want to hear is be still. But think about it like this. How well has not being still worked for you? How's that working for us, right? Because I can be fidgety, I can jump up and down, I can pace the floor. Trust me, I do it. But then I think about it. All I did was get more steps in on the watch, accelerate my heart rate, and then lose out on sleep I could have been getting. All because I wasn't still. Everybody say still. So what's the solution? What is the solution? Well, I think there's three things that we can learn from the power of being still. Here's the first thing that we learn. Being still eliminates distractions. Being still eliminates the distractions. How do we know that? Well, let's go back to verse 10. Psalm 46 and 10 says, be still and know that I'm God. So the first condition for even getting to the point where you can recognize what God is doing or what's going on is just be still. Now, we say this a lot. My grandmother used to say it because it was thundering and lightning outside. I don't know what that accomplished in the house, but for whatever reason, we had to be still. For whatever reason, all right? You know, there's plastic on this furniture. It's hot. I'm all of 7 or 8. I'm used to being outside. This is a pre-internet world. What in the world is the thunder and lightning outside having to do with my motion and movement in the house at 401 West 24th Street in Tyler? God is really that attentive? Like, that's what's really going on? But there was a message in that. Because in that stillness, well, one, it kept the house quiet. Let's just be real. I'm not going to be overly spiritual about that point. But what it also does is that it gave you time to think. It gave my grandfather a chance to just take a deep breath. Gave my grandmother a chance to go, okay, what am I going to feed this joker, right? But for us, stillness gives us the ability to remove those things that are distracting us. The dictionary defines still as not moving or making a sound, going into a deep silence, or my least favorite word in all of mankind, calm. I don't know how to do that. It just doesn't resonate like that. What it doesn't mean, though, is weakness. Being still doesn't mean being weak. In fact, it takes more power to be still than to throw hands or be all jumpy and skittish and all over the place. It takes a little bit more restraint and discipline to be still. And it also doesn't necessarily mean to do absolutely nothing. You still got to fill out the job application. You just got to be still in the waiting process. I still have to speak up for what's right, but I also have to wait on God to deliver on what he said he would deliver. So it doesn't mean I'm weak or I'm soft or I'm going to look weak there. You might look weak, but that's okay. But that also doesn't mean don't do anything. So in light of this definition, Out of all the things in the world, why would God tell us humans that he created, knowing how we're wired, because he wired us, knowing how we see the world, he sits high and looks low, knowing all of these things, why in the world would he tell humans to be still? Well, here's the thing. Being still actually shows us where our focus really is. Because when you're still long enough, you realize sometimes that thing that you're worried about, that thing that's bothering you, that thing that's got you up late at night, it's really not all that bad. It's really not that big. But because we've been moving and trying to solve the problem ourselves, that thing got a little big. That weapon started to prosper a little bit. But as humans, we're also easily distractible. We easily distract. We sit here, we leave a church service, we make a plan that, you know what, this week I'm going to read my Bible for 5 minutes a day, and then the time comes to read, and it's like, oh, that got here fast. Oh, okay. You know what? I'm a Monday person. If I don't start the new habit on Monday, it's not going to happen until the following Monday. So you can imagine how 52 weeks can go by mighty quickly when you've kicked that can down the road 51 other times, right? It's easy. But also, how many things go through your mind when you're walking around? Like, I'm just going to take a walk. How much stuff is going through your mind? The bills, the kids. Ooh, that flight I missed out on with Delta. Spirit just got bought out, thank God. All those other different things going through your mind, not the thing that God is trying to get your attention on. Here's what it also shows. Being still actually also shows our lack of trust. That's a rough one to handle. Because think about it. Jesus is knocked out asleep on a boat in the middle of a storm at a time where he told them, get to the other side. Now, the condition, Jesus said, get in the boat, go to the other side. That should have been the hint that regardless of what's going to happen, he said go, so we should just go. Now, a storm hits, and this ain't like these, I know a lot of us be thinking man, I wouldn't have been that scared. This is not the Carnival cruise ship they're on. This is a wooden boat. This is wood. There's no light. Okay, I know we be thinking it's well lit out there. No, it's not. It's just moon. Okay, so it's dark. You're constantly moving and bouncing. So these trained fishermen have every right to be afraid. Here's the problem, though. They've got the Savior in the boat with them. He's knocked out asleep. He's not crying. He's not even praying. He's asleep. But yet, they let the problem get too big. We do that too. We let our problems get too big. And when Jesus gets up, he's like, you have little faith. Peace, be still. And the water obeys. The same thing happens in our lives when we forget to, when we lack our trust. Because what do we do when we don't trust people? What do we do when we don't trust people? We go try to solve the problem ourselves. We get out there and, man, I knew I shouldn't have trusted Junior to come pick me up from work today. I'm going to call it. I got to call it. Hold on. Let's give them a check. Can we call and check in, right? When we don't trust somebody, we start texting everybody, complaining about the problem. And we complain so much that we've overtalked the problem to the point where now the problem is bigger than the God we said we serve. But if we would just get somewhere and sit down and just be still, then all of a sudden we got a chance to put things in their proper perspective. And then as a result, we can hear what God is trying to say. But in our movement, in our activity, please hear me. Don't mistake busyness for productivity. Don't mistake busyness. We got these full schedules. The calendar is full. We got alerts going off every 10 minutes. We got alarms for our alarms and a sleeper for the alarms, right? And we're like, man, I'm accomplishing things. When you do the calculation at the end of the week and you look back and go, out of 5 days, I really was only productive for 3 hours of the 40-hour work week, right? So if we over-focus on the problem and if we're never still, we never really get an opportunity to let God have his way. And so if God said he was going to do something, we got to let him do it, amen? And so remember, we need to make sure that we are still, because being still eliminates the distractions. Y'all still with me? Here's the second thing. Not only does being still eliminate the distractions, being still empowers the believer. Oh, yeah. Being still empowers the believer. Because watch this statement. Be still and know. You can't really know something if you don't do the work of the investigation or the inquiry or the study. Like, think about this. Have you ever known something, but you went and did the opposite of what you know to be true? Right? We do that sometimes. But if we're still, we have the power to believe what God said he would do. Like, for example, if going with the example I gave a second ago with doing the opposite of what we know to be true, we knew we weren't supposed to be on our phone during a certain time, during a certain meeting or a certain conversation, but we did it anyway. We knew we shouldn't eat a certain food, but it sure tastes good. Or we like a little something sweet after already eat. The people over here laughing, they get it, right? I just say, we want something sweet. It ain't dessert. We want something sweet, right? Knowing good and well, we got to watch them A1Cs, right? And so I'm speaking to myself, too. I'm not immune. Or, fellas, we knew she was married or had a girl. Married or was in a relationship. Ladies, that applies to you, too. Knew he was in a relationship, but we hollered anyway. We shot our shot because fear of missing out, YOLO, whatever statement Gen Zers are using these days, too. We do these things. We do these things because we know what's right. We know the right thing to do, but as Paul said, when I would do right, sin, right? But if we took the time to just breathe and be still, we would make less mistakes. For example, if Samson had taken the time to just be still, he probably wouldn't have marched into enemy territory to mess with women that God had told him to leave alone. If Samson had just took the time to be still and wait on instruction from God rather than after slaying the thousands of men, dropping the very provision that God gave him and then wrote a song about it, right? If we can't be still, how can we learn our lessons? If we don't take the time to observe what God is trying to help us make sense of, we miss out on the blessings. Listen, when we're still, we can quietly reflect on how good God has been to us in the past. Because at the very least, even if I can't trace what he's doing right now, I can at least go, but man, that one time though, I prayed about that and he got me here. If we were still, some of us would recognize, hold up, I'm living the life I once prayed for. I'm in this apartment that I prayed like crazy, asked the church to fast with me and all this stuff. I'm living in that place. Now I'm upset because of certain things. I'm working the job that I begged God for. And now I want to quit because trouble, right? Or, I'm, right? Listen, when my wife and I were attending Concord in Dallas, Brian Carter gave the example once. He said that you often get these things in your mail with these credit cards that you pre-qualified for, right? Well, as believers, we're pre-qualified, pre-subscribed, and already signed up for trouble the minute we accept Jesus. It's already there. Like, it comes with it. I don't know what happened with us biblically or spiritually down the line where we thought all of a sudden, if I accept Christ, it gets easier. No. It's not biblical. Jesus said, in this life, you will have trouble. So if Jesus said it and Jesus lived it, why do we think we're immune to it? Why in the world do we think that, hey, this very thing that God said we're pre-subscribed for, already signed up for, it's waiting on you. The very moment you say, I accept Jesus, it's there. But Jesus says, but I've given you a way out. I've overcome the world. So if you trust me and you sit still, I can take care of it. But if we're too focused on the negative, if we're over-focused or hyper-focused on what's not working, or if I'm too distracted by everything else, I'm going to miss out on everything God is trying to show me. I've got to be still. You got to be still. Because here's the other thing, and I'm at my last point. Not only does being still eliminate the distractions and empower the believer, here's the last and final point. Being still elevates God. It puts him in the proper place. Back in college, I worked a few retail jobs, and I was pretty good at retail. I'm actually okay at sales, right? Supervisors used to compliment my ability to close out sales on certain items and products. There were closing items and things that I could sell very easily. But when it came to things like the cologne that I didn't like the way it smelled, the credit card to the store that I didn't think people needed, I struggled to push that. I struggled to sell it. And when I had meetings with my supervisors, what it ultimately came down to was the fact that I didn't believe in the product. Here's the question. Do you believe in the product of God? Do you believe in the product? See, everybody thinks that Christianity has this problem. No, I don't think Christianity has a problem, just got bad PR people. If we really think about it. Because if you don't believe in the product, can I really stand before somebody and tell them how good God is if I really don't believe it? Can I go to somebody and say he's a healing God when I really don't trust the fact that because my dad died, that because he didn't heal him there, that all of a sudden I can't believe he's a healer because it didn't happen the way I wanted it to happen? Can I trust him as a lawyer in a courtroom when I got locked up or I had to do my bid or do my time for a crime I actually committed, but I'm mad at God? So how's that God's fault? But that's neither here nor there. The text says, be still and know that I am God. You can't promote something you don't believe in unless you're lying. Not only do you believe the product, do you know who God is? See, ancient Israelites, the ancient Hebrews, they believed God so much about who he was, they wouldn't even speak his name. We throw God's name in everything. We throw God around. We got Jesus is my homeboy t-shirts, Jesus take the wheel, all of these other different things. Ancient Hebrews wouldn't think of doing that because I'm not going to throw the divine, holy, and righteous God's name on any and everything because it's too holy. It's so holy they wouldn't even speak it. So they came up with a way of saying I am that I am, right? So the question is, do you know who God is, the creator of the universe, the God of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, the rose of Sharon, the lily of the valley, the bright and morning star, the rock of ages? Do you know who God is? Because if I know who he is and I know what he can do and I even have a glimpse of what he's done, then I shouldn't have a problem being still, because if he said he'd handle it, I got to let him handle it. I've got to let him have his way. So what am I doing? What am I doing knowing that what I know about God, knowing what I know he's done for me, knowing what I know that he's done for my family, knowing what I know that he's done for people around me? What am I doing to elevate him? How is he getting the glory out of my life right now? There's so many ways. All of us in this room, every last one of us, I don't care from the youngest to the oldest, all of us are blessed with some type of gift, ability, skill, something we good at that everybody knows. How are we using that to glorify God? How are we using that to elevate him to the point where when I look at my problems, I can say things like, I know that he's God. And because he's God, he's going to be exalted. Everybody say exalted. That means that he's going to be heralded verbally and physically. I'm going to lift him up in what I'm doing. I'm not going to elevate myself. Because here's the thing. When you go back and look at, and I'd encourage you all this week as a challenge to go back and look at those first 9 verses of Psalm 46 and 10. Because it starts off with God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. That's knowing who God is. Therefore, we will not fear. Though the earth give way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam and the mountains quake with their surging, there is a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy place where the Most High dwells. God is within her. She will not fall. God will help her at the break of day. Watch this. Nations are in uproar. Kingdoms fall. He lifts his voice and the earth melts. The Lord Almighty is with us. Everybody say us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Come and see what the Lord has done. Look back. The desolations he has brought on the earth. He makes wars cease to the ends of the earth. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear. He burns the shields with fire. So then after all of that, I can confidently say, be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. And so as a believer, I should be excited about that. I should be excited about the fact that out of all the chaos and calamity that can come in my life, I serve a God who, if all I do is just hand the problem to him and just take a deep breath and go, okay, I would love if this was solved right now. But Lord, have your way. Because you can't sing that and mean it if you're not willing to let him have his way. We can't just play around with that. And so if you're not sure of how to be still, and I'm still working on this myself, here's a couple strategies. Find somewhere nice and quiet to just sit down. It don't have to be long and it doesn't have to be extensive. And I know some of us are like, man, but when I get still, I get sleepy. That might be the point. I'm speaking to myself on that. For some of us, we need a playlist, we need some music, and all of that's fine, well, and good. But if you're easily distractible, please know, don't invite the distractions into God's presence with you, okay? Open the Bible app or your paper Bible and read selections from the Gospels, specifically Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts even. But if you need help getting started, that's what Greater is here for. That's what your church family is here for. And more importantly, more than anything else, talk to the Lord. During that time of sitting still, that means he's got your attention. Bring whatever you need to bring. Here's the hard part, though. Stay there long enough to be quiet and wait for a response. One of the worst things we do in conversations with each other and with God is we do all of this talking, but we don't wait on a response. If you believe he is who he says he is, then that means he's capable of responding if we give him space and time. But if we're rushing and trying to get to the end so fast, if we're rushing and trying to get to the point where it's just like, I just got to get this out, we miss out on an opportunity to hear directly from God because he's always talking. It's just, so are we. And so if we're not careful, we'll miss out on what he's trying to say to us because we're trying to get our word in, amen? We're so busy trying to get what we want out, we miss that time. So listen, we got challenges for everything else in the world right now, right? Here's what I want you to do this week. This is a challenge. Just take 5 minutes. I know some of you are like, oh, I don't have that. 5 minutes. Spread it out over the week. There's no judgment here, but whatever you need to do, that's 1 minute a day during the business week. Okay? If you can't do that, that might be a reason why you need to be still, right? But 5 minutes to just let God talk to you. Have your prayer time, have your devotional time, whatever it is that you're doing, but just take 5 to just let God just minister to you. You would be surprised at what you can accomplish, what you will hear, what you will receive, and what you will see just from being still. Stand up all over the building. Because here's the thing. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, you can stand up. Thank you. This message is more than just about being still. It's also a call. Because there's somebody in a room this size with this many people, I'm not foolish enough to believe that everybody knows the God I'm talking about. So this message is a call to a couple of different people. Number one, it's a call to follow Christ and make him your Lord and Savior. If you have never accepted Jesus and made him your leader, don't wait. Let today be the day. Let this time be the time that you maximize this moment and make him your leader. Because here's the beautiful thing about it. When you make him your leader, you can sit back and be still and know that your leader is going to lead you in the right direction. Right now, all over the building, we've got invitation counselors that are going into a private room where if you want to go and make that declaration, you can go out this door right over here where this lovely young lady over here is waving her hand. You can go over there, and after service, we will make sure that we connect you with that risen Savior. If you're online, you can call 877-632-0702 to make for prayer requests or to make a spiritual decision. This is your opportunity. This is also a call to unite or join with our church family. Listen, it's one thing to make that declaration and that decision and then to go off on our merry way and get back in isolation. That's what the enemy wants. We've all watched enough National Geographic to know that when predators go after little unsuspecting prey, it's always the ones roaming around by themselves. It's those little Lone Ranger believers that always get isolated from the enemy. Some of you are new to this city and you've been looking for a church home and you've been kind of flirting with the idea of joining. Make that commitment today. Don't exist in isolation. Come and join a COG. Come and see what we're all about. This is also a call for people that have accepted Jesus Christ and also want to be baptized. This is an opportunity for you to make that decision as well. And then here's the last thing. This is a call for every last one of us to respond to God, this message, or what he's trying to do in your life this week. Make that decision today to make God your leader. Amen? Aren't you glad you came to church today? Let's give the Lord a hand clap for praise.